time ago. Senator Chris Johnson, good morning, sir. District 45, Forest and Perry Counties, Chair of Senate Government Structure. It's good to have you. How are you, sir?
Good morning. Thank you for having me on today. I'm doing wonderful, and I'm also impressed with your ability to pronounce the name of that song.
Well, I learned it a long time ago. You know what? I am, too, as a matter of fact. I was just going to say sushi, and there are not a lot of people left living that remember the song, so you got to be a boomer to understand that one. You guys go in at what time this morning? 10 o'clock? Yep, 10 in the house at 2 o'clock this afternoon. And your evaluation of the session so far, because it was kind of a slow start, of course, 4 months. At the beginning here.
Yeah, so we did have the two extraordinary sessions where we had economic projects. And then we talk about it being a slow start, but we're all getting kicked off in new committee assignments, new roles, working on legislation. And we've had a significant number of people and groups at the Capitol to visit us this year. So it's been a busy start, even though legislatively we may not be as productive as we will be later in the session.
Oh, absolutely. It always kicks up toward the end. And some of these crazy bills have a chance to hit the no man's land.
That's right.
You're chair of the Senate Government Structure. Tell me a little bit about that committee.
So this is a new committee that Lieutenant Governor...
It's not even posted on the website, by the way.
I think they're slowly updating the website.
Yes.
I looked up my committee assignments the other day, and they weren't updated yet. So, but no, this is a committee that Lieutenant Governor Hoseman wanted to put together to evaluate ways we can improve government. And I'm greatly appreciative to him for putting me in this role. And the focus for government structure is to look at ways we can make government more effective and efficient. You know, we have roughly $20 billion that pass through the state every year between federal funds, general funds, and special funds. And there's a lot of room for money to not get used in the best possible way. And I think that while we can never be perfect, there's definitely ways we can improve. So we want to look at ways that we can improve efficiencies, but at the same time, we have a lot of services that we need to provide to people, and we need to do those in the best way possible for the people.
Well, it's kind of an irony because in the off session during the summer, we were all talking, at the end of the last session, 2023, everybody started talking about more efficiency. We need to cut some of these useless, non-attended boards and meetings and even these committees. Some people hadn't met in a long time, and by the end of the year and start of this session, we wound up with several more committees instead of less.
That seems like normal government operating procedure.
That's an irony.
But we do need to evaluate how we can reduce the number of boards, combine boards. There's definitely things that we can do to improve and just take advantage of economies of scale. So with IT and payment and application processing and purchasing, if I want to go buy a water at a gas station and I pay $2, or I can go to the grocery store and buy a 24-pack of the same thing for $5, we can do those same numbers with the state. We can take advantage of the economies of scale.
Are we doing that now as far as purchase volume? I mean, the purchase volume in my lifetime was always something we studied, and where you could get the best deal, as you said. I know they do that in several different areas. For instance, we had a story many years ago where the School Board Association puts together that to try to buy, if they had to buy air conditioners, buy 40 of them with several schools combined and get a better deal. So is that what you're talking about, basically?
It is, and I think we are investigating now. I mean, this committee is one that we're not going to come out guns blazing right off the bat. This first session and first year is going to be more of a study committee to see what the best options are. But things that stand out and things that people have communicated to me are say, IT. We have an in-house state IT department, but yet then we also, some boards, agencies, contract IT separately. If we can find a way to use just our in-house, that could be a big savings.
And that's going to be more important than ever before. You mentioned AI, and I know one of your bills was a bill that would, what was it, to just make sure we're using this in the right way or studying it as far as education is concerned? How did that integrate with education?
Yep, that's right. In fact, I have two AI bills coming out. One is that one you're referencing. It's a task force or study committee, excuse me, that would help guide.
By the way, this is SB 2062. If anybody wants to take a look at this, SB 2062, establishing a task force act to study AI in education.
Yes, and that's simply what it does. It would be a group of people that would that are stakeholders in education, and they can put together recommendations to integrate AI in K through 12 or IHL. And I think there's a lot of concerns about AI, and there should be, but yet it's part of life. Students are already using it. We need to find the most effective way to integrate it into schools in a positive and healthy way for students.
I would think 10 or 15 years. I don't think it's going to be that long. I just think the education is going to be revamped because of this. There are some schools now, I don't care how much a kid has ADD or is hard to discipline, there are some things that you put on the visor and take somebody to the moon, show them whatever the curriculum happens to be, whether it's math or anything else, and there are programs that will entertain and I think just captivate most kids from K through 12, and that's going to be probably part of every school in the future because they're making these things cheaper and cheaper now. They could do that.
I agree with you 100%. It's a creative destruction in education, and I think that we'll see a complete overhaul of how students learn and how we teach over the next 10, 15 years.
What is this one about on SB 2125? State employees require the state to offer health savings accounts. And I misspoke last week because we had this on. I think we had I forgot who it was on, but we were Dr. Woodward, and I mentioned on the bill that I misspoke saying that a person can get a health savings account. I don't have that. I have an FSA, which is a flexible spending account, and those are two different things. So your bill would do what?
Just have the state set up an avenue for people to invest in a health savings account. So health savings accounts are strictly limited to high deductible health plans, which the state does have. Currently, as a state employee, you can do what's called the flex plan, where if you can reasonably predict what your expenses are going to be, say if you have a prescription that is $75 per month, you know you're going to spend $900 in a year on that prescription, and you can put $900 in this flex account, which is pre-taxed.
Okay, it's basically the same thing then.
But the difference is that with a flex plan, whatever you don't use by the end of the year, you lose, whereas a health savings account can continue to accrue. And so anybody that works for the state now can set up a health savings account, but they would have to do that on their own. And so what my desire is to make it easier for people to set up a health savings account. The state doesn't have to match it. It just allows for people to use their cafeteria plan to do that.
Would that work the same way as far as lowering your income and taxes?
It would. That's correct. So it would be a pre-tax item, which would be the same as deducting that revenue from your taxable income.
SB 2234, school attendance zones, allow students to transfer to other school districts subject to availability and approval. Is this school choice?
Well, I guess technically you could call it school choice. This is a bill I've dropped a couple of times. We passed it in the Senate, I believe, 2 years ago. The idea is that students and their parents oftentimes may know best about where they want to go to school for different reasons. If that is accepted by the receiving school, then I say that we should let them do that.
So we're talking public to public or public to private or anywhere?
This is strictly public to public.
See, and I don't understand this. I know that we've had a lot of conversations about this. And again, State Senator Chris Johnson is my guest this morning. He's from District 45, Forest and Perry counties. And again, chair of the Senate government structure, and will be noted when they update the when they update the website and get his due place on the information. But I want to talk more about that one because it seems like in this narrative of school choice, we're kind of centering on public schools to private schools or parochial and not inclusive of public to public. And that should be easier. That shouldn't be as hard to walk through the hoops to go from one public school to the next. But we'll talk more about that. With this bill, it's SB 2234. Back more with State Senator Chris Johnson, DIC Senator Chris Johnson with us. Just an opening quick shot here. In ancient Greece, a dinner host would take the first sip of wine to assure the guests, hey, look, the wine's not poison. You can drink this. So they would take the first sip. That is where drinking to one's health started. When they said, and they used to say this a lot, let's drink to your health. Well, that was it. The other one is toasting. How did toasting start? Well, it started in ancient Rome, when the Romans continued the Greek tradition, but started dropping a piece of toasted bread into each wine glass to temper undesirable taste or excessive acidity. Now you know the rest of the story, which we did not know before. All right, let's talk about this one. I love this one that you had. It was SB 2222, income tax credit for employers for blood donations made by employees during blood drive, extend period of eligibility for. What was that one about?
So that's an existing law in the books, and like many of our laws, it had a repeal date that comes up this year, and so we are extending that repeal date.
The other big bills that are coming up, we got some extensions to do in different things. I know the PSC is there. We talked about several other of the agencies that have to be taken care of. Missy McGee, some of the business that took place in the House yesterday was, what was the bill number? HB 539, to provide that pregnant women shall be deemed to be presumptively eligible for ambulatory prenatal care under Medicaid for up to 60 days. Apparently that cleared and went to the Senate yesterday. I don't think it's been referred. No, received in the Senate, not referred. So something that you guys are going to be looking at. Your thoughts on this as far as the whole health care situation and the narrative on health care, expanding that, et cetera. What's your thoughts on that?
Yeah, of course. Like it seems like most things that we tackle, it's very complicated. Yeah. I think that the federal government owns a lot of the responsibility for the issues in health care that we have today. The state only has so much that we can do, and when I look at what many of our state's providers, their breakdown of pay, Medicare, Medicaid, TRICARE end up being the majority of most providers' payments, and with Medicare, say, between 2001 and 2021, when adjusted for inflation, payments to providers dropped 22%. And so, we look at, and with Medicaid, we see where providers are constantly reaching out to legislators with issues with payments from Medicaid, the amount of payments. Recently, or last year, pediatric dentist had an issue with hospitals not being paid enough through Medicaid to cover anesthesiology and surgery. And the hospitals wouldn't allow them to do it there. They couldn't do it at ambulatory surgery centers at the time, and so they just had to stop doing certain procedures on minors that would need anesthesiology that or anesthetists that were on Medicaid. And so, we see constant problems with government-paid health care plans, and so and most of that's driven by the federal government, much less the state than the federal government.
Would the CON come out of your committee, or would you have any to partake in responsibility on CON since it's government structure?
Yeah, I would assume that's going to go to public health, but I don't know for sure.
Mm-hmm. Your thoughts on that? Because we've been talking about CON, Certificate of Need, for a long time, and it's one of those things. And we did a little bit last session with more flexibility from hospital to hospital, but there's more that needs to be done.
Yes, and I don't know how many things that changes. I think on one hand, I'm generally into free markets. On the other hand, I know the investments that go into providing healthcare services, and I believe that many hospitals and providers make large investments. They lose money on some things, make money on other things, and so we want to be cautious not to allow people to go in and just do the profitable things, and then many services not get provided for.
The word that popped into my brain there was ivermectin, and it's a little bit like where are you going with this one, Paul? The ivermectin was available there. It was something that we needed to be using, and every bit of information that we get now post the pandemic shows that it was there. It could be used. It was a great solution, and it was just beat up. Nobody wanted to pay attention to it. And in both the public schools and the hospital situation, there is an ivermectin called competition, and competition makes things better. So if you don't have the CON, I know you're protecting the old structure of a hospital, but that competition is going to make it better where, the marketplace will allow it. And the same thing as public education. Competition, we've seen that. Whether it's from charter schools or school choice, actually makes the bad schools better.
Yes, I think there's evidence that shows that in many states.
So we're going to just leave it there, or is a school choice bill going to be forwarded in the House and or the Senate? Well, I know we got some coming through, but do you think it has a chance anyway in any form in the Senate this year?
Yeah, I'm not sure. There's a wide range of directions that can go in. Like you referenced the bill before the break that I have. It's more public to public, but I know there's a push for some public to private, which we have. We have some vouchers, if you will, for students with certain disabilities and our special needs. And so we started that process. Whether that gets expanded, I can't say for sure.
Yeah, but I mean, that means your kid's got to have a disability before they get that opportunity, and that's so there. You don't. A taxpayer is a taxpayer regardless of that child's health, one way or the other. And if they want to move that kid to another place, they ought to be able to do it. And sooner or later, we're going to be one of the few states in the South that does not offer that. We're doing a great job in education right now. In schools that are performing, public schools that are performing, I think we're doing a good job. We saw that. We saw the testing go up, third grade reading gate and all of that. But still, that opportunity needs to be there in some form or fashion. Let me, while I got you here, ask you about the personal income tax in the Senate. The governor has spoken again, saying that really want to get this done. He would like a 9-year level, as what I understand, a tenure that in 9 years we completely drop the personal income tax. Your thoughts?
Well, I think that's definitely a good goal. As you know, no state has eliminated the income tax other than Alaska did, I think, in 1972, and they had some oil money. So it's not an easy task. I think it currently represents around 30% of our state's general fund revenues, so over $2 billion. And so we definitely would have to phase that out over time. I'm always in favor of putting or letting taxpayers keep more of their money as long as we do it responsibly and don't neglect the responsibilities we do have, like education, roads, infrastructure.
You cover Forest County and what else did I mention here? Forest County and Perry counties. The economic health over there in those counties?
I think Forest County and the city of Hattiesburg is doing extremely well. That area has, I believe, the lowest unemployment in the state. Of course, we've had these big economic packages coming out in other parts of the state. We'd love to get one of those in Hattiesburg. Perry County has had some other businesses look at locating in their industrial park. Hood Industries rebuilt or is rebuilding their facility in Beaumont, and that's going to be a great boon to that area because the jobs that they had before the tornado took out their facility were going to be about half the wages of the new jobs that they're going to create, and they're going to be adding to those.
Well, if you think about it, you've got the population base there, the workforce is there, the university is there, hospitals are good. And do you have any mega sites in that area?
We do. In fact,
and I'm not talking about an industrial park. I'm just talking about the mega site itself.
That's right. We have what's called Eagle One mega site. It's right on the Forest Lamar line on the south part of Hattiesburg. And in fact, the counties closed on that property together about a year ago. And there's been significant investment in that property. Several people looked at it. Hopefully we can land a big project soon. I
think it's a great place for another auto plant. But we got 3 tire plants here, and we got to have 4. I mean, you got to have 4 tire plants. You can't just have 3 wheels there. So
I agree with
it'll be
you.
a great place.
And Hattiesburg's a great place for one.
I agree. It's one of our great hometowns. Chris, thank you for coming in. Appreciate it. Don't be a stranger, sir. Thank you for coming in.